Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. It's getting a little chilly, at least in my apartment, at least where I'm living, and so I put on my little Ball State hat. I don't know if it's appropriate for, well, it's almost November, it's almost Halloween, and I didn't take it off because, you know, I was wearing it around my house and didn't brush my hair, didn't comb my hair before I left. Anyway, happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining me. Man, am I fired up about today's show. I'm fired up about life. I'm fired up about everything today because we got just, the good news just continues to pour in and pour in and pour in. And I get to come on here and share the good news, the gospel of what's going on in America. Things are turning our favor. And man, do I have a fantastic show for us that's going to be a combination of sports and politics. And a combination of things I love to talk about and am talking about. Like, we're at an inflection point for men. And people have to decide, men have to decide what side they're going to be on. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to use the sports world, I'm going to use the political world, and just tie everything in a nice bow. Butter, TJ Moe will be here with me after I get these things off my chest, and we'll have them react. Shemeka Michelle, of course, will be here. Sid Rosenberg. You guys, some of you may know who Sid Rosenberg is. He's been a longtime radio personality all over America, but in New York primarily the last decade and a half. Used to work down in Florida. I knew Sid or met Sid years and years ago when he was doing the show The Drive with Scott Kaplan. Sid has worked with Don Imus. He's going to come on the show because Sid, and let me stress this, Rosenberg, he went to that Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden with Donald Trump and all the other Nazis. Sid Rosenberg spoke at that Nazi rally. You know, the one that they're all complaining about that reminded them of 1839 and Adolf Hitler and all the Nazis. Sid Rosenberg spoke at that rally. He was among a number of Jewish Nazis who attended that rally and are supporting Donald Trump and all the other Nazis, all of us Nazis in the MAGA movement. Sid Rosenberg, longtime friend of mine, he was at that rally. It's no surprise. I mean, Sid fits the profile. He's the typical Nazi. You know, there's a long history of Rosenbergs and their support of Nazi politicians. Anyway, Sid's going to join us on the show. Rosenberg. Did I mention his last name's Rosenberg? Did I mention he looks very, very Jewish? Did I mention he's a friend of mine? Did I mention any? Anyway, he's going to be on the show. Listen, before I get into this awesome take, let me tell you what you guys need to do. You need to go to fearlessmission.com and become a subscriber to the Fearless Mission. Use my promo code Fearless40. You can save $40 on your yearly subscription. The subscription to Fearless Mission will get you access to everything the Blaze has to offer, everything I have to offer. It's the best thing you can do to support this show. If you want more content like this that's not woke, that doesn't come in and preach that leftist garbage, Marxist, satanic agenda through the sports lens. You want more of what we do, go to fearlessmission.com, become a subscriber, use my promo code Fearless40, save $40 on your yearly subscription. Now, let me get to today's show. This morning, I'm sitting there, we're talking about, hey, how are we going to unpack this? What's going on? There's this thing going on in the sports world. It's going on with men everywhere. Steve Bannon. Did you guys know Steve Bannon, the big homie? He came home from prison this morning. And it made me think about, like, holy cow, it's raining men. And when I thought about it, it's raining men. R-E-I-N-I-N-G. And it's also raining men. R-A-I-N-I-N-G. And so you need to decide which side are you on? Oh, I spelled it wrong. I spelled the first one wrong. I spelled it like reindeer. Reigning, reigning men. Steve Bannon, home from prison. Elon Musk taking Twitter a completely different direction and allowing free speech. Mark Zuckerberg walking back his stupid comments and his the way he ran Facebook and apologizing for that. And Jeff Bezos, the owner of the Washington Post, he's now pivoting the Post, the owner of Amazon, he's now pivoting. And so when you look at Musk, Bezos, and Zuckerberg, these are like 3 of the 5 richest men in America. And then you look at Steve Bannon, he's connected to all that power. And then on the other side, you have the reigning men. You remember the Pointer Sisters or whoever saying, "It's raining men, hallelujah," or however the song goes. Then on the other side, you have the reigning men. Bit more feminine on that side. You got Matt Barnes, Charlamagne the God, Mark Cuban, and Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe yesterday released an interview with the Yas Queen, or however, Shemeka says I say it wrong. I don't know how you say it, but he interviewed Queen Kamala, the VP, the wannabe presidential candidate. And what we have on one side, the reigning men, the men that actually want to lead and reign over America, they're all going one direction. And then the reigning men, they're all going another direction. What side do you want to be on? Do you want to be one of the reigning men that are stepping up and saying, you know what? I got to draw a line in the sand, and we've gone too far with this matriarchy. We've gone too far with the stupidity, the movement away from reality into this fantasy world? Or do we want to be one of the reigning men who are just, we got to support our queens, and we must kiss their rear ends, and we must celebrate the matriarchy, and we must pretend like Kamala Harris didn't get here on her knees? You make the call. I know some of you will be in the chat, in the comments, and saying, Jason, why you got to make it a black or white thing? It's not a black or white thing. It's a man thing. And it's what type of man do you see yourself as? Do you see yourself as a reigning man? REIGNING. Do you see yourself reigning over, taking dominion over? Do you see yourself as a leader and someone unapologetic for being a man? Have you moved beyond the mentality that you owe women some apology for all of your mistreatment of women? I see myself, because again, I'm not caught up in color, I'm caught up in a mentality and a worldview. Men are put on this earth to lead and not worship women. We're put on this earth to lead and not worship women. Again, when the scales came off my eyes, and I started thinking about, hey, it's always been in my nature, it's been in my instincts, but now I'm just more confident, and I can now see how we've been programmed for a matriarchal worldview, for a worship of women worldview. You listen to the music, it's all a celebration. R&B music, all the soul music, it's all a worship of women. And that's why when you look at the reigning men, RAINING, all they do is drop to their knees and kiss the butts of these women. Shannon Sharpe interviewed Kamala Harris yesterday. And it was a remarkable interview in terms of secondhand embarrassment for Shannon Sharpe. Like, really? Really? First of all, you're gonna show up in that super tight suit. In that super tight suit to interview the Vice President of the United States, all the way down. It was like he was wearing a onesie, basically. The man showed up to interview Kamala Harris in a onesie. I just want you to understand the mentality of men and how we've been programmed into our own femininity. Just think this through. Shannon Sharpe's like, yeah, we're gonna interview the president, the vice president. She want to be president today. What can I put on to show off my body to this woman? I just want you to think, who has that mentality? If they go back to their factory settings, if their mindset is proper, who shows up to a meeting, a man and a woman, which one of them should be most concerned about showing off their body? I'm not saying this because I'm fat. I'm not saying this because I would look ridiculous in that onesie that Shannon Sharpe showed up wearing to interview the president. I'm talking about a mentality of men versus women. We used to live in a time, and Shannon Sharpe has lived long enough to remember this, where women would be so concerned about their appearance and making sure they impress that man that they would show up in the skin-tight outfit, in the short skirt. They would show up trying to entice that man. But because we've been programmed and brainwashed into being feminine, Kamala Harris showed up in some sort of pants, business suit, covered up, and Shannon Sharpe came in an outfit trying to let this woman see everything that he has. Every package that he had was on display. He showed up with his cleavage out. His shirt was unbuttoned, pants so tight that he didn't even, everything exposed. This is what I'm talking about when I say reigning men, and they don't even realize how they've been feminized. It's not just the hairdos and going to the beauty salon to get your hair done. It's in your style of dress. When I see all these dudes running around in their skinny jeans, showing their butts off. It's like, don't you realize what's been done to you? When I see these dudes with their pants hanging off their rear end, don't you realize what's been done to you? You've been made into a woman. You have a woman's mentality. It's reigning men. What side do you want to be on? I want to play you some clips of Shannon Sharpe and Kamala Harris, and just how stupid this conversation was. And my God, did Shannon Sharpe get dragged in the comments. This did not go well for Shannon Sharpe or Kamala Harris. I'm going to play the ending of the interview where Kamala Harris is sitting in front of a man who's bobbing his head and agreeing as she talks about the importance of murdering babies in the womb. And I just want you to understand, Shannon Sharpe's from the South, and he's my age. And I'm not saying that these men from the South, my age and older, had the right mentality or did all the right things. But if Shannon Sharpe, if his granddaddy's alive, or if he thought back to his grandfather's mentality, his grandfather and those guys of that generation, they were all about planting their seeds. Many of them any and everywhere. They were not about killing their seeds. Shannon has no idea how he's been programmed into an unmasculine worldview that you think there's some value in women slaughtering your babies in the womb. Let's play shot number 3.
One more thing, I think something that's very, very near and dear to your heart is Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
I think 50 plus years, I think 72, 73, when it was Roe v. Wade said, hey, women have the right to their bodies, and all of a sudden the Supreme Court struck it down and says, no, you don't, we have control over that.
Yeah.
What would that mean to you? So how do you get that? How do you go back and fight to make sure women still have control of their bodies?
So I'm so glad you brought it up. Shannon, first of all, think about one of the most basic rights that you could imagine is the right for you to be able to make decisions about your own body.
Correct.
Your own body.
Your reproductive rights.
And the court just took that right away from women to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do. And I think an important emphasis for me is you don't have to give up your faith or deeply held beliefs on this subject to agree the government shouldn't be telling her what to do. If she chooses, she'll talk with her pastor, her priest, her rabbi, her imam, but not the government telling her. And we need to fight against this. We need to understand how many women are suffering miscarriage and being denied help because the doctors are afraid they may end up in jail.
All of the entire conversation is a lie. The states decide what goes on, what's allowed as it relates to abortion. The federal government is not trying to tell anybody what to do with their bodies. And as far as, this is the most fundamental right, to be able to slaughter your baby in the womb. How can someone tell? It's not a fundamental right. It's a pivot in worldview. We used to live in a country where we valued life, and that when God blessed you with a baby, it's the greatest blessing you could have. That baby would be an asset to your family, an asset to humanity. And now that we've bought into the matriarchy and female leadership and female rulership, now it's like, don't do anything that inconveniences a woman who wants to kill a baby in service to her career. And Shannon Sharpe's just nodding his head. It's a female point of view. It's a wicked, satanic point of view. It's why the matriarchy is such a danger. And there have been no female-led societies. I don't care. Go watch The Woman King and all that lie. It's a lie. There are no great matriarchal societies. And only cowards, men that don't want to lead, would be in support of that. This is, it's across the board. Here, you guys remember when Matt Barnes, another one of these reigning men, he sat across from Kamala Harris and was talking about blended families and how we need more mixed nuts. That's what'll fix the world. There's more people like you and me, Kamala, with all these different identities. Every identity except for identity in Christ. If there's just more of that, the world would be such a better place. Here's Matt Barnes, another one of these suspect men, SOT number 6.
The people who don't get it are understanding, is there a whole lot more of these kinds of relationships than people realize? This is not the 1950s.
Blended is the new norm.
Right.
Blended families are the new norm.
It is. Mm-hmm. It is. And they're beautiful.
Absolutely.
And it's a beautiful way to live, to build and grow your family. You know, I talk about it even in my speech at the convention. I grew up with the family that is my family by blood and the family that is my family by love.
And sometimes that's thicker.
And that's exactly right.
That's thicker.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Two mixed nuts talking about the power of blended families, talking about the power of identity politics and creating more kids that are confused about who they are. Anybody that knows me, I have no problem with interracial families, interracial people, but all these people that take all their identities from all these different things other than Christ, they're making a mistake. We don't need more of it. But this is a guy that's pandering to a woman. He's not a leader. He's pandering to Kamala Harris. Well, I mean, Matt Barnes is a mixed nut for one, so of course he's going to support another mixed nut, Kamala Harris. But this is just pandering. This is what they do. And we have to decide. What side do you want to be on? These matriarchal men or this other group? And this is, you can't make the decision based on color. You have to make it based on your worldview. Are you a man? Do you want the responsibility of male leadership? Are you willing to draw a line in the sand and say, damn these satanic, evil, matriarchal people? And there will be people within your family who will despise you. And you may have to get some distance from them. You may have to go to prison like Steve Bannon just did. You may have to risk your life like Donald Trump is doing. Because that's what men do. That's been the history of men. These people are cowards. There's not a Nat Turner among them. They run around and act like they're Nat Turner. They ain't doing nothing they mama don't tell them to do. Nothing. My mama, grandmama didn't say it, I ain't doing it. My granny said this, y'all know I love my grandmother. Love my mother. But they're not my leaders. God is. They answer to me, period. Whether they admit it, like it, they have to deal with it because I provide. I'm a man. They don't provide. Not anymore. Here's Charlamagne the fraud kissing Kamala Harris's butt, and Trump's a fascist. Play shot number 5.
It's two very different visions for our nation. One mind that is about taking us forward and progress and investing in the American people, investing in their ambitions, dealing with their challenges. And the other, Donald Trump, is about taking us backward.
The other is about fascism. Why can't we just say it?
Yes, we can say that.
Yeah.
I would love to be on TV one time and just say, Charlamagne, define fascism. I know they gave you that as a talking point. Define it. Explain it to me. What is it? And how is Trump doing it? Show me the examples. The man was president for 4 years. Where was the fascism? What is it? What's the history of it? I want him. They just toss around these talking points. Charlamagne's an idiot. These guys are all compromised. Mark Cuban compromised. That's why when you choose to behave sexually irresponsibly, you put yourself in jeopardy of being compromised the rest of your life. And you can't speak up. You can't be a real man. Because they know if they spoke up and drew a line in the sand, that the women that they have abused or can accuse them of abuse will come out of the closet and destroy them. These men, the reigning men, these suspect men, these zesty men, they're all compromised. No discipline. I can remember years ago when I first started listening to a guy called Chronicles of Judah. Dude fascinated me, and he got kind of a secret identity, and I would be listening to him, and he was always talking about protecting your seed and showing some discipline, and basically like walk away from that sexual promiscuity. Don't just hop in bed with anybody. At the time when I first started, because it's 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I can't remember, but I was fascinated. I was like, I couldn't fully understand what he was talking about. But now I totally get it. He was warning you, don't let these women control you with your sexual irresponsibility. Don't get caught up out here with a bunch of different women who can control you with threats and or legitimate accusations. Have more respect for yourself. Be more responsible. It goes along with being a leader. This is why marriage is so important. And I know I've made the mistake, I've talked about it all the time, but being in a monogamous marriage allows you to be a man. Being sexually responsible allows you to be a man. If you're not, be prepared. At some point, someone's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, Shay Shay, I got this stylist. He's gay. I want you to become best friends with him and run around all of Los Angeles with this gay stylist. No, just trust me. Just run around with this gay stylist. He's your BFF. That's when they got you. They have you by the balls. And now you can't be a man. You have to spend all, let me put out a fake sex tape to prove that I'm not gay, and that gay stylist that I was sitting courtside with, we were just friends. We were trapped in the friend zone. Let me put out this tape of this woman and me pretending that we had sex and it's all an accident. They got you backpedaling for the rest of your life. Who knows if it's true? But I do know if you hadn't been running around with him, the accusations wouldn't stick. You wouldn't have to backpedal from anything. I do know that if you had carried yourself more responsibly in the workplace and in your personal life, you wouldn't be compromised. You'd be able to stand out there like a real man, but you're not. Mark Cuban running around defending all this garbage. But clearly, it appears he must have visited either Epstein Island or Diddy Island or some island somewhere because they got him. But thankfully, on the positive side, let's talk about the real reigning men, the other guys. And I know for many of you, it's hard to look at this and say, oh man, Whitlock, he just like the white guys. No, I like men. I respect men who want leadership and who are willing to do dangerous things in support, in an effort to protect freedom, in an effort to protect male leadership. Obviously, Elon Musk is the head of the snake. Donald Trump is. But Elon Musk has fallen in behind him in the media lane. And my God, look at the dominoes just falling and falling and falling and falling. Jeff Bezos, used to be the richest man in America, got divorced, now he's the second richest man in America, started Amazon, owns the Washington Post, and holy cow, did this dude just let loose on the Washington Post, and it's a testament, once again, to what Elon Musk has kicked off. The Washington Post is now talking with some common sense, and Jeff Bezos is talking about taking the Washington Post in a completely different direction, back towards reality. Here's the statement he released through the Washington Post, and people are all upset because the Washington Post won't make a presidential endorsement. Here's what Jeff Bezos had to say. In the annual public surveys about trust and reputation, journalists and the media have regularly fallen near the very bottom, often just above Congress. But in this year's Gallup poll, we have managed to fall below Congress. Our profession is now the least trusted of all. Something we are doing is clearly not working. Let me give an analogy. Voting machines must meet two requirements. They must count the vote accurately, and people must believe they count the vote accurately. The second requirement is distinct from and just as important as the first. Likewise with newspapers. We must be accurate, and we must be believed to be accurate. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but we are failing on the second requirement. Most people believe the media is biased. Anyone who doesn't see this is paying scant attention to reality, and those who fight reality lose. Reality is an undefeated champion. It would be easy to blame others for our long and continuing fall in credibility and therefore decline in impact. But a victim mentality will not help. Complaining is not a strategy. We must work harder to control what we can control to increase our credibility. Presidential endorsements do nothing to tip the scales of an election. No undecided voters in Pennsylvania are going to say, I'm going with newspaper A's endorsement. None. What presidential endorsements actually do is create a perception of bias, a perception of non-independence. Ending them is a principled decision, and it's the right one. Are you not? The win is at our back. Now, I'm not saying it's over. I'm not saying we won. But powerful people, Elon Musk, super wealthy people, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, they're all pivoting. That's how much wind is at our back. The people in power with the most money in America. Larry Ellison's right there in that group. He's a conservative, been a conservative, the guy that owns Oracle. So if you start talking about the four richest people in America, Bezos, Elon, Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, either they're conservative or they're moving our direction. We're winning massively. Things are about to change. I think people are starting to understand we can't continue with these Orwellian lies. This can't go on forever. As Jeff Bezos just said, reality is undefeated. And so what he's saying, and this has been underfoot since 2015, 2016. They thought, coming off the Obama years, hey man, we got this whole matrix rigged up. We're Facebook and Twitter, and this is Jack Dorsey's Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook, and whoever owns Google. We got this all sold up, and we're going to move people into the matrix and into this fantasy world and this mob of lies that we've constructed, and everybody's going to make decisions based off of our lies. And what happened in 2016, this is why Hillary Clinton was overconfident, thought she was going to win. The Obama had pulled it off and shown everybody the way. We own the internet, and we're going to move all the American people into our matrix and maze, and we're going to control their thoughts, the whole 9 yards. And Trump comes along and says fake news, and the next thing, people's heads exploded. Holy cow, we had the whole system rigged up, and Trump beat Hillary. And then they doubled down in 2020. They said, okay, we thought the internet could deliver us what we wanted. We thought we had the conversation and everything sold up in a way that, we could just sell our lives. We could just tell people, hey, look, the police are killing unarmed black men. It's a genocide. Black men will be extinct by 2032. And they told that lie. And they had Jack Dorsey and Twitter, and they created all of these fake social justice warriors. Sean King, the white guy, pretending to be black. D. Ray McKesson, the gay dude that they made in charge of Black Lives Matter coming out of Ferguson and then running for mayor or something in Baltimore, and he couldn't pee a drop. They thought they had it all rigged up. And so then they said, well, we'll combine our social media rig job with cheating, and we'll install Joe Biden. And now on the other side of that, Trump has gotten stronger. Elon Musk got so fed up, he bought Twitter. And I was the main one arguing that Twitter is the ringleader of all of this. You gotta take Twitter down, and Jack Dorsey and the lies that were coming out of Silicon Valley from Twitter. Twitter was where all the lies got confirmed. On Twitter, everybody's gonna pretend like they can't leave their house without getting shot by police if they're black. We'll even get LeBron James to say this over Twitter. And I was like, if you stop the media lies from being confirmed on Twitter, the lies will fall apart. Elon Musk coming in and taking over Twitter changed the conversation in the public square and made people have to start dealing with reality. And so the polling on Kamala Harris is so bad. And everybody can see like, oh my God, the matrix has been rejected. And this is what Jeff Bezos is getting at when he says like, no, look, our credibility keeps sinking lower and lower. They told us that they controlled what people thought and our credibility would actually go up or it would stabilize. Instead, it's been just the opposite. And he's talking about, we don't have any impact anymore. That's why he used that word, that we're not taken seriously. The Washington Post, same thing's going on with the New York Times. They just have enough money to pretend like it's not going on. CNN, no one takes it. MSNBC, no one takes them seriously. There's a small niche of idiots and deranged people with Trump derangement syndrome. But the great mass of America doesn't take these institutions seriously. It shows up in the polling. The whole myth, no one bought Joe Biden 81 million votes. That's a rigged job. That's all mail-in balloting, where mothers and women and other matriarchs are filling out the ballots of dead people and their sons who don't care. Bezos, Musk, Zuckerberg, everybody with a brain is like, holy moly. These lies have not stuck. We're being rejected. All these promises that the Matrix promised, they cannot keep. And so they're pivoting. And we've seen it with Mark Zuckerberg. Let's play SOT number 11. This is Zuckerberg talking about Trump. He would have never done this in 2019, 2020, when he was given $400 million to the Democrat Party to buy up votes. Never said this, never would have acknowledged how much respect he had for Trump. This is after they tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Play the clip.
I've done some stuff personally in the past. I'm not planning on doing that this time. And that includes, not endorsing either of the candidates. Now, look, there's obviously a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. The historic events over over the weekend. And on a personal note, it's, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But look, it's, and I think, look, it's, at some level as an American, it's like hard to not get kind of emotional about that spirit and that fight. And I think that's why a lot of people like the guy.
That's a concession speech. All of this stuff they're putting out, what Bezos put out, what Zuckerberg's doing, the way Facebook has walked away from content, these are concession speeches. These are, not going to happen. Let's pivot back to reality. The most powerful men in America are pivoting towards reality. They're walking back the lunacy of the left. What a time to be alive. This thing had gotten so out of hand, I have to admit, I had given in to cynicism and scared, like, oh my God, they're going to do this. They're going to win. The Orwellian crowd is going to win. And I'm going to be the lunatic operating in reality while the rest of the world operates in this fantasy land built by the left. And so now you have all the holdouts and the people that are all compromised and can't say what they really think, and they're more desperate, and they just do more and more name calling, and everybody's a Nazi and everybody's Hitler. And they're sending, I mean, it's a bad look. And this is why, again, this is why I've given up any sort of racial identity, because I don't want to be associated with these gay clowns that are running out there defending this matriarchal stuff. From Diddy to Roland Martin to Charlamagne the Fraud to Shannon Sharpe to Becky with the good hair, any of these gay clowns, I don't want to be associated with them. So this, and I see a lot of black men like running from the gay brigade, the alphabet mafia. I'm looking at Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, and just everyday black men are just like, hey, I'm out. And everybody's panicking. And that's why you're seeing the smart people with money throw up their concession flags. And then the last thing not the last thing, but one of the things that just overjoyed me today was, the picture of Steve Bannon getting out of prison. You can see the fence behind him with the wired rails or wired fences, and looks like his wife is walking towards him, and he's got a little plastic bag with his extra stuff that he had in prison. It's an iconic photo. It really, it's not Trump getting shot, but it is an iconic photo. Steve Bannon, one of the strategists of the whole MAGA movement, a guy that helped Trump get into office the first time around, the leader of the war room. To see this man coming home from prison 1 week before the election, to see a man that was a political prisoner that said, you know what, I'll do the time, then sell out my movement and the people that believe in me. This is Congress avoiding some subpoena, not snitching out, not ratting out the whole MAGA movement. That's why they sent this man to prison. And they talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice and Trump's gonna do it. They did it, the Biden administration did it to Steve Bannon. The man just spent 3 or 4 months in prison because he wouldn't snitch, he wouldn't rat out, he wouldn't conform. Hey, man, for those of you that's caught up in race, I feel sorry for you because you're locking yourself out of just being a man and giving praise and credit to men that are like, no, I can do 4 months standing on my head. For those of you that watch The Wire, Steve Bannon is basically Weebay. Yeah, bring me a burger with some mushrooms on it, and I'll eat some more of these murders. I'll put them all on me. For those of you that ever watched The Wire, Weebay was the muscle man for the Barksdale organization. And he ate everybody's murder charges, took the time and said, no, I'll do this life sentence, stand on I'm not selling out. Steve Bannon just did that, and now he's coming home. You only do 2 days. If you watch The Wire, you do 2 days. Day you go in and the day you come out. That's a hero. That's a real man. That's what manhood and masculinity actually looks like. Would not sell out, did 4 months in prison, coming home a week before the election, and then immediately going into a studio, and do we have the clip? Do we have the clip of Steve Bannon? Someone help me out here. Play the clip of Steve Bannon telling Nancy Pelosi and everybody, these nuts. Play the clip.
You know, Nancy Pelosi sent me to a federal prison. She sent me to a federal prison as a political prisoner to do two things: to make sure that she tried to tamp down the power of this show, right? Tamp down the power of the show, and also to break me. Nancy Pelosi, take out your number 2 pencil and write this down. This show has never been more powerful. The voices behind it have never been more powerful. The audience has never been more powerful. And we're going to deliver a knockout blow to your progressive insanity on 5 November. And then we're going to secure the deal after that. And number 2, the 4 months in federal prison not only didn't break me, it empowered me. I am more energized and more focused than I've ever been in my entire life. And I can see clearly, just like in 2016 and in 2020, exactly what's going on here and what we have to do to defeat it. I want to go back through the 3 phases. Number 1 is 5 November. All that matters right now in places like Pennsylvania and in Michigan and in Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, obviously other states, but these 7 battleground states, is to deliver something that takes us to where Ohio and Florida are today. We have to put this beyond their ability to steal it.
That's what a man looks like the day he gets out of prison. Calls out the people that put him in prison. Tells them, nah, man, you only made me stronger. Whatever doesn't kill me makes me stronger. This, I'm with them. I can't be. And I know what's sad is, obviously I've know Steve Bannon, but I don't know Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know those guys, never met them. Obviously, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm a MAGA guy. And obviously, I've met Donald Trump. But on this other side, these gay dudes are zesty. I don't want to call them, I don't know if they're gay. They're zesty, though. They're definitely zesty. The reigning men, I know these guys. Cuban, Sharpe, Barnes. I've never met Charlamagne. He's a coward. He ain't certainly not man enough to deal with me. But the rest of the zesty group, Roland Martin, I'll give you one. And I was a supporter of his when he was the Clippers coach. Halfway like and respect Doc Rivers. But just too zesty for me. And so when you remember a couple years ago when they caught him liking some transgender tweet, he got busted for that. No surprise, this dude's taping commercials for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Tampon Tim, the guys that wants to put tampons in men's bathrooms, not wants to, did put tampons in boys' bathrooms in schools in Minnesota. This guy is taping commercials for Kamala Harris, pretending to be a coach and talking to Doug Emhoff and all these other clowns in support of Kamala Harris. Play shot number 7.
All right, guys, huddle up. Let's go, let's go. Yes, this is the final stretch of the election. We have 30 seconds for one last play.
All right, Coach.
Doug, you're gonna travel across all these swing states, right? And you're gonna make sure that folks know that Kamala is gonna take care of all of them, just like she takes care of her family.
Yeah.
Tony, you have to make sure everyone knows that Kamala is gonna support their families. All right, Coach. Wes, you're gonna make sure.
Stop the tape. I like Doc Rivers. Rooted for him when he was with the Clippers and they got Kawhi Leonard. I was hoping they'd have all kinds of success. It hurts me to see these guys out here like this. that group that they're supporting, their number one priority is killing babies in the womb and making sure women have the right to kill babies in the womb. That group supports young boys and girls castrating themselves, cutting off their breasts and genitals because they feel like a boy or feel like a girl. They support puberty blockers. That group support same-sex marriage and all this other satanic garbage. And Doc Rivers, that's where you're gonna throw your hat in the ring? You gotta come out publicly? You can't keep that to yourself? They got you that by the balls that you gotta tape commercials, and then you gotta follow in behind Greg Popovich and at a NBA press conference go on a little rant about Donald Trump. Play that clip.
If you saw Madison Square Garden, I mean, come on now. Like, right? So to me, it's so important to vote. I'm going to keep it as close to that as possible, but my gosh, you know, and when I tell people the guy was so great, then why did 80 million people vote against him, you know, in the last time he ran, you know? So I don't know. I don't get it. I don't. But we got to do something about that. Was atrocious what we saw. If you're a black man or a woman or brown, Latino or Puerto Rican, or they hit everybody, you know, and it was awful.
Hey, Doc, guys.
So I just want you to understand the insanity of that. Doc Rivers is a former elite athlete, played in the NBA for a long time, had a very successful NBA career, then's been coaching in basketball in the NBA, maybe another close to 20 years. So what I'm saying is the guy's been in a locker room environment since he was 5, 6 years old. And now he's got to be close to 60. And he's pretending like whatever was said at Madison Square Garden, oh, it's so disgusting. Oh, whatever that was. And if you're black, if you're Latino, if you're a person of color, oh, God, you had to be. Doc is around my age. I started out in sports at an early age. I was in and out of locker rooms as a journalist for 25 consecutive years. I've never been able to go through the cosplay of pretending like, oh my God, what Donald Trump and comedians say. Oh, I just can't believe, how is a black person or that person, how can you support these? All the politically incorrect things that I have said and done and have seen and witnessed inside of a locker room environment. If I could tell stories about things that I participate, that's embarrassing, that it paints me as scum based off a locker room environment and running around with dudes in a locker room environment and the kind of stuff we did in college. And that's why it's never been able to compute with me like this fake outrage as Donald Trump said, grab him by the, really? That's the bridge too far for men, for athletes. What Donald Trump said in a private conversation, not what he did, what he said. Oh, I can't believe it. And it's beyond the pale. When Jeff Bezos is talking about why the media has no credibility, this is what he's talking about. This is where they lose me. That Doc Rivers is allowed to say these things. Greg Popovich is allowed to say the things that he says, and no one ever pushes back like there's not another side to the story. There's no credibility there with any of these people. And oh, Donald Trump, what he's done, and oh, what happened at MSG. And I said it from day one. I've argued with my family about it. I was like, hey, man, I grew up at the Masterpiece Lounge. You know, my father and his friends and my uncles and, hell, my mama and her friend, what they said at the Masterpiece Lounge, what they say still to this day, and I'm supposed to pretend like Donald Trump is outside the norm? Can't do it. Not gonna throw my credibility away. I can't, they don't have me. And that's why I've been so transparent about, like, yeah, I've been a piece of doo-doo in my life, and here's what I've done. I don't have any secrets. And because, again, I wanna be a man, and I wanna say exactly what I think, and I'm not going to play this game that's been played for the past 8 years. And I'm so celebratory that it's taken this long. I've been disappointed, but it's like there is an awakening going on. And you can be on the zesty side and you can keep the cosplay up and you, out of racial loyalty, you can say, well, Kamala Harris and all the black zesty people are on this side, and because I'm the same skin color as them, I gotta go be zesty too. I'm not doing that. I'm not zesty. And so I'm not gonna play zesty for a check or to be with the in crowd or so I can get an invite to a Diddy party. It's despicable what these guys are doing. That's why every time I see a AB or a Le'Veon Bell or a Lawrence Taylor or any of these guys that have the courage to just be men, I'm going to celebrate them. I was never a big Le'Veon Bell fan. I'm turning into one now. He's got a pair. These guys, I don't. I want. There's a couple other things I want to show from the Shannon Sharpe interview, or at least, well, there's probably two. Just, I don't want to leave anything on the cutting room floor today, because I'm so fired up and I'm excited, just to be quite honest with you. But here's Kamala Harris and Shay Shay talking about how Trump wants to cover up slavery. This is the kind of delusion and derangement and lies you have to tell and shake your head to and never question if you want to be on that team. Let's play SOT number 2.
I saw President Trump on a TV show, and he talked about defunding the Department of Education.
Yes.
Basically, we know that's going to affect communities like us that don't have the resources. Mm-hmm. And then because he says he doesn't, if they taught about slavery, which is a part of our history, that
they're trying to cover up.
Yes.
That they're trying to cover up.
They talk about racism. And he said, well, what we would do if they talked about it, they wouldn't get funding. And we know what communities are going to be most impacted by non-funding.
And understand that they want to get rid of the Department of Education and get rid of Head Start. You know whose kids are in Head Start? They want to, it is, and to your point, and I'm so glad you pointed this out, you know, these are the same people who basically suggested that enslaved people benefited from slavery. The same people who are trying to ban and are banning books. Mm-hmm. And again, if we don't teach America's full history, we will never ensure that we don't make the same.
Yes.
To do those same things again.
Let's learn from that painful part of our history to make sure we don't repeat it, but not by not covering it up. Let's have an open and honest conversation about it. It happened.
And the effects of it.
Yes.
And the present day effects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. There's been a shortage of conversation in America about slavery. No one knows that it existed, and kids must. It's important that kids know that 160 years ago, people were slaves. That's very important. It must be told. What is the cutoff point? What year? Because there's a bunch of other people that have been enslaved, and we don't feel like it's necessary to reference them, their ancestors, and all that. So what year is it? Why is it? And again, I'm not against teaching America's history, but are we going to teach the full history? Who sold us into slavery? What percentage of white Americans actually own slaves in America? What percentage of black people are actual descendants of slaves that are in America now? Because Kamala Harris's family is not one of those descendants. But she likes to pretend like she was somehow affected by it. And then, let's have the real discussion. Because Muhammad Ali said it long before I did. Oh boy, I'm glad my ancestors were on that boat. If you guys should look up, I think you got to be maybe a Blaze subscriber, but E.W. Jackson had an awesome breakdown about slavery and why he doesn't run from it and why he knows, no, I'm here by divine providence. This is exactly where God wants me to be, here in America. And so God wanted me on that boat, wanted our ancestors to go through that, and that there actually is a blessing in it. Shannon Sharpe is blessed because of it. I'm blessed because of it. Because Shannon Sharpe's got enough money. I have enough money. If I want to move to Africa today, it could be done in a snap. Why stay here if there's no blessing here? Athletes should understand, every moment you spend in the weight room suffering is going to be a blessing for you on the day you actually compete. So suffering can bring blessings and does bring blessings. There's someone with the initials JC who suffered, and we received the blessing. These people are idiots. And that's why they only talk amongst themselves. Because if they ever brought their idiocy to a non-idiot, they would get exposed so quickly and get exposed being beyond their depth so quickly that it would be embarrassing. So either one of those two matriarchal idiots, Shannon Sharpe or Kamala Harris, bring that garbage to me. Bring that garbage to anybody else with a legitimate, objective worldview, and watch how quickly you get exposed as an idiot. I have to say hats off. If you go read the comments to this YouTube interview, they get destroyed, and deservedly so. Just get annihilated. The comments ravaged them. There was so much idiocy, and it was so soft, and Shannon Sharpe looked so feminine, dressed, again, tight clothes like a woman, cleavage out like a woman. She's dressed in, the roles have been reversed. He's pandering for her attention. It's amazing. I want to play one more, and I'm sorry. This whole thing's got me so fired up. And it's so, what a time to be alive. It's just to see the scales coming off people's eyes, to be able to have the freedom to have this conversation and expose, and to have them so desperate. And we're watching the collapse of the left in real time. And I'm sorry, I'm starting to get super optimistic about where this country's headed and where the mentality of men is headed. I honestly feel like we're about to reestablish control. And the Zesties can line up with these women, and they can go sit in the corner somewhere and go to the beauty salon and get their hair done. They can go get their fingernails painted. They can go pick out earrings together. They can go pick out tight clothes to wear together. And leave the real work. I hope this Kamala Harris thing is going so poorly that the whole Yas Queen, thank God for Black matriarch, the whole thing is collapsing. And we can move beyond it and never look back. Never look back at these liberal women that want to be men and think that they should be in charge. That hopefully we've seen what that leads to. And we can now move on and move into normalcy. And I don't think it's just going to be men. I think a lot of women are following in behind us. And Black women too. I think those numbers are going to surprise people. The lies can't stand forever. Jeff Bezos, I believe, nailed it when he said, reality is undefeated. I'm giving up on these promises that have been made that, oh, the matrix and this system we've designed on the internet, we're going to create a whole new world. People have taken the red pill and spit the blue pill out. They went too far with the kids and the whole drag queen story hour. They've just gone too far with the lies, the obvious lies. They got men competing with girls in sports. Did Shannon Sharpe, and I watched the whole interview, I didn't hear him bring that up to Kamala Harris. Here's an athlete who's been going to WNBA games. Why not challenge Kamala Harris on that? Hey, what are we doing here? You seen these volleyball teams that won't play San Jose State? Where are you at on that, Kamala? I'm an athlete. This is an issue I can understand. I shouldn't be out here competing with girls in sports. I'm Shannon Sharpe. I have the mentality of a woman, but I have the physical makeup of a man. I shouldn't be competing with women in sports. He should understand that. Didn't get asked because he's pandering and worshiping to a woman. He's one of these reigning men that finally real men are standing up and say, I'm done with that. Let's move on. Have I milked this cow? Do you guys want to? There was one other thing that stuck out to me in this, and it's my pet issue. They played the Central Park 5 card during this interview, and it pissed me off. And so I'm being a little bit selfish here. I want to move on. I want to bring Sid Rosenberg on. I done ran through TJ and Butter. I was going to talk with them about it, but I don't want to hear from them. So let me play this one last clip of Kamala and Shannon Sharpe talking about the Central Park 5.
In addition to all of that, we're looking at Donald Trump, basically somebody who has never been understanding of the issues that affect the community about disparities. And I'm going to talk, for example, about how when he was a landlord, he denied rent to Black families. Mm-hmm. You look at what he did in terms of taking out a full-page ad in the New York Times against the Central Park 5, that's correct, which were a bunch of, they're not young adults, they were teenagers, Black and brown teenagers. Took out a full-page ad on in the New York Times calling for their execution for crimes they did not commit. They were innocent. Donald Trump, who said of the first Black president of the United States, the birtherism, mm-hmm, to have people question whether he was born in the United States, to try and diminish. And then most recently, you look in this very election, legal Black immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, saying they're eating their pets. So so part of what we have to help people understand is don't think you're in Donald Trump's club. You're not.
Right.
He's not going to be thinking about you. You think he's having you over for dinner? You think that when he's with his buddies, his billionaire buddies, he's thinking about what we need to do to deal with addressing, for example, my work around what I'm doing to address disparities in black men's health, around colon cancer, around what we need to do around screenings, what we need to do around prostate cancer. Black men are twice as likely to have, and screenings.
Yeah. Kamala Harris, when she's not at home servicing her white Jewish husband, all of her time is spent thinking about health disparities for black men and what she's going to do about it. I mean, she's just lobbing Shannon softball after softball, and he ain't hitting none of them. He's just sitting there nodding, yeah. What you think of this tight suit I got on? Like my cleavage? Seriously, she's dressed in a professional way, like a man, like she's there for business. This man's got his balls hanging out in these tight pants and a onesie. Just think it through. You think I'm being harsh, but these are the facts. Oh, the Central Park Five. The Central Park Five did those crimes, admitted to them on tape with their parents sitting there. They were not exonerated. They were vacated after they served their time. Donald Trump didn't call for their execution. This is all a bunch of lies. And you know who you lied to? You know who men have traditionally lied to? Because they eat it up. We've lied to women. Tell them, do I look fat in these? No. That's what because look, it's better to lie to women than to tell them the truth and they'll hate you and all that. So this is what I'm saying. Shannon doesn't know. He's being treated like a woman. A woman is sitting across from him, feeding him lies, and he's eating it up in his little tight onesies with his balls hanging out. I'm sorry but I'm just keeping it real. You been to a strip club? That was a strip club conversation. Kamala was the man talking to a stripper who's inappropriately dressed, sitting in front of them, trying to distract you with their body. And Kamala's sitting there talking to a stripper. That's what that was yesterday. And so you have a choice. You can go with the zesties, or you can go with the real men. Take your racial idolatry glasses off. This isn't about black and white. This is about man and woman. This black and white thing, and this is for you people claiming to be religious. You go to the book of Genesis, it talks about man and woman, male and female. Show me in the Bible where it talks about black and white. Where we got to interpret it into this thing or that thing. Like God would be unclear. Like if the central battle was between black and white, it wouldn't be spelled out in the Bible. It wouldn't be a whole narrative about black and white. Oh, well, it's about Jews and Gentiles. That ain't black and white. You go to the book of Genesis, they talk about male and female, and what happened in the garden? Man and woman, a battle between those two, at odds. That's what this is about right now. Good and evil, man and woman. Who's going to lead this thing? The zesties have chosen woman. I'm telling you, if you're a man, choose men. They can call me sexist. They can call me every name in the book. I don't care. Call me anti-Semitic, call me a Nazi, call me any of that. I'm standing on the fundamental truths spelled out in the Bible. Period. Deal with that. I'm going to bring on Sid Rosenberg. He was at Madison Square Garden. He spoke at that Nazi rally that Trump held. Rosenberg, a Jew, spoke at that Nazi rally in New York at Madison Square Garden. He's going to join us just around the corner. Before I do that, I want to talk to you guys about our great friends over at Alpine Gold. Inflation is eating away at your savings and is showing no signs of slowing down. At Alpine Gold, you can start earning a competitive return on precious metal leases that allow investors to protect against inflation while earning a competitive return at the same time. Every other precious metal IRA is lacking this. That's why Alpine Gold offers gold leases that pay you in gold. Everyone is eligible to start with returns up to 3.5% average per year. The Goldback is the world's first physical interchangeable gold money that is designed to accommodate even small transactions. Goldbacks do not need someone else's approval to spend, do not specify where they can be spent or what they can be spent on. They're anonymous. There is no need to know who you are spending them with. When you buy 100 Goldbacks and lease them, Alpine Gold Exchange will give you 5 Goldbacks on your first lease payment. Payments occur 1 month after your lease begins. Limit 1 payment per person. Also, when you buy $1,000 of Goldbacks, they will waive all credit card fees. That's a 3.5% savings. Learn more about Goldbacks by visiting alpinegold.com. Use the promo code FEARLESS to receive free shipping on orders of more than $200. That's alpinegold.com, promo code FEARLESS. Sydney Rosenberg, my good friend, the New York radio host of Sid and Friends in the Morning. X.
Hey, look, let me say this. We have to stop. We have to stop. As the media and everybody else shining the light on Bronny, because it's other players that are deserve our attention, right? The lottery guys, the guys that are actually that are going to get drafted in the first round. Like, we're talking about a guy, a young man that's possibly going to go late second round or not getting drafted at all. I've never, in my 4 years of working here, I've never sat on the table where we're talking about a second-round pick.
But this is LeBron James' son, and that is a legitimate storyline that one of the greatest of all times has a son trying to play in the NBA at the same time.
And you have to give Bronny credit for actually trying to say the right thing.
Nobody in America cares that Bronny James played 3 minutes and grabbed 1 rebound and at 11 o'clock at night in the opener, and this is supposed to be a moment that America is going to resonate with. I mean, come on. I'm being serious now. And I love the kid. All right. We know we had the major issue at USC. And LeBron's great. He's an all-timer. He's always been a phenomenal player. He stays out of trouble. Who doesn't like LeBron? I mean, he's not Jordan, but who doesn't love LeBron? Everybody loves LeBron.
I can't
But to make a big deal because JJ, and I love Redick. I'm rooting for him hard here.
Yeah, me
But
too.
the idea that he put him in for 3 minutes, he grabbed him in a couple of shots, and this is the greatest moment in professional sports.
Mad
I mean, we
Dog.
got to be serious.
They
This is-
made history.
Well,
It's
Ken Griffey
LeBron
Jr.
James.
and Ken Griffey
Yeah,
Jr.
but in
and
the
Ken Griffey
NBA,
made history.
he's one of the greatest players of all time. The ultimate dream realized, playing alongside his son
Well,
in the
let me-
iconic purple and gold.
His words are aboriginal, regrets and our decisions. We all wanna go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. Time to be joined by my great friend from New York, Sid Rosenberg. Sid and I met 20 years ago when he was doing The Drive with Scott Kaplan. Sid, as one of the Jewish Nazis who went to Madison Square Garden to speak on behalf of Donald Trump, explain yourself, you anti-Semitic Nazi. How did you end up there?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I do go back with Jason here a long time, back to the days in Kansas City when he was such a joy to work with and really a terrific guy, and got my wife a Fendi watch many years ago. We still have it. So thank you for that, Jason. Look, it's very simple. I've become friendly with the president really over the last year and a half. He comes on my radio show quite a bit. He's on every 2 months on a pretty consistent basis. And they came to me and they said, look, do you want to go to this rally? And I just gotten back from Israel. I had a very epic trip, Jason, to Israel a couple of weeks ago. On that trip, just so you know, I did my show Monday, October the 7th, on the commemoration of that awful day in Israel from a little town called Sderot, which is down by the Gaza Strip. And the police station across the street was completely taken out. They murdered every cop in that city. They raped, they murdered. Donald Trump called in that day on October 7th before he went to the Rebbe's grave, which was a big deal for me. Also on that trip, that Thursday night, I met with President Herzog in Jerusalem. And the night of all nights, Saturday night at the Yom Kippur, I broke the fast with Bibi Netanyahu. We had dinner together that Saturday night. It was an epic week in Israel. So I get back from Israel, and they invite me to speak at the Garden, and I was conflicted because here I am, a guy that just went to Israel. Now I'm going to speak at a Nazi rally. But I took the gig, and as it turned out, it was anything but a Nazi rally. It was an amazing, enthusiastic New York national crowd that loves Donald Trump, loves Israel, and loves America.
So when you're watching the media compare this to 1839 and say it's a rally of hate and all this, what's going through your mind? It's like, no, hold on, I was just there and I was there. How did they turn that into what they turned it into?
That's what they do, Jace. You know, they're desperate. What are they going to do? They're going to talk about their policies, how great that is. So let's take a bunch of Republicans and Trump supporters and let's turn them into Nazis. I mean, look how beautiful Melania looks, by the way. She looked fantastic. You know, look, I was home last night and somebody said, put on Rachel Maddow, which I'd never put on in a million years. But I put it on and she showed a clip of me speaking at the rally and juxtaposed it with the actual video from the 1939 Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. Katie Couric yesterday on her Instagram and Twitter account saying, even Sid Rosenberg said it was a Nazi rally when I was clearly being facetious. I was clearly being sarcastic when I made the point coming from Israel, who would come to a Nazi rally. But they don't care. They're desperate. They know they're losing. They can't talk policy. So what do? They call us the most awful names. It's not just Donald Trump, it's me. I mean, Jason, I can show you I've got a boatload of death threats the last couple of days on Twitter, on Instagram. I've been on over 140 different publications, from India to Israel to Teen Vogue to Rolling Stone magazine, all saying the most horrible things about me because I had the nerve to call out Hillary Clinton, who, along with James Carville, said this was a Nazi rally. By the way, I have zero remorse and zero regret for anything I said. The New York Times did a story today, and they said, do you know that 17 speakers cursed 43 times? And the most prolific of all, conservative radio host Sid Rosenberg, who said the F word 7 times, I couldn't be prouder. I love that moment. I love that rally. I would do it again tomorrow.
Sid, for some reason, I apologize. There was some infamous statement you made or joke or offhand remark that has made the news, and I don't have it right at the tip of my tongue. Do you know what everyone is picking on you about, or what allegedly was your over-the-top comment?
Well, there was really 3. I mentioned the effing illegals. I did use the F word before I said illegals. I did not talk about them in any color or race or even where they come from. I did none of that. All I said was, I don't think it's okay, Jason, I know you agree with me, for Americans, homeless people and veterans especially, to be laying in their own feces on a park on a bench in Central Park, while the illegals are getting five-star hotels, cash, and I made the point, even Yankee-Dodger tickets. The second thing was I did call Hillary Clinton at that rally a son of a bitch. And I think folks were surprised that I cursed. I'll say it again. She's a son of a bitch. And the third and final thing was I called out every single Democrat in this country. It was a bit of hyperbole. Of course it was. I was on stage at a Trump rally. I have friends and family members that are Democrats. I'm disappointed. I think they're stupid, my own sister, but I love her. But I did call out every Democrat, and this is where I got in big trouble, for being a lowlife, a degenerate, a Jew hater, and a POS. So there were three different moments in that speech that I think you'd have to admit were brilliant, but the left liberal media didn't love it.
We just put those comments into a fact check deal, and they all come back fact check true. So
now you know
if
why.
They can call us.
Now you know why for 2 days.
If they can call us Nazis, why can't we call them what they are? If they can call us Nazis, why can't we say Hillary Clinton's an SOB? I'd rather be called an SOB than a Nazi.
I'm glad you said that because you're 100% right. I mean, that's not so nice an SOB. I understand that, okay? But in the big scheme of things, you just said it. I would much rather be called an SOB than a Nazi, which they've referred to me and President Trump as. They've also referred to me and President Trump as racist, which is about as bad as it gets. And let's be honest, you know they're still referring to President Trump as a rapist? I know this. My buddy of 47 years, the great famed defense attorney, Joseph Tacopina, represented Trump in that trial. Guess what? There was no rape charge. The jury threw it out. They came up with some ridiculous sexual abuse charge. They still call it a rape. And how about this? Later on tonight, Ms. Harris is going to speak from the same exact spot where Donald Trump, the president, spoke on January 6th. You know, they're still calling that an insurrection. If you look at the definition of insurrection, what happened that day was anything but an insurrection. So you're right. It doesn't matter. They get to say what they want. Rapist, racist, Nazi, insurrection. And I go son of a bitch, and I'm the worst guy in America. That's the beauty today of being a Republican versus a Democrat.
I think you're the second worst guy in America. Isn't Tony Hinchcliffe, isn't he the worst in America? Everybody talks about trash in Puerto Rico. He calls Puerto Rico an island of trash, and he's a comedian. I mean, that's about as tame a joke as he ever cracks. But I think they've made him the worst guy, and allegedly all Puerto Ricans are hopping off the Trump train. Man, if this is all they got, we must be destroying them.
Yeah, listen, not all Puerto Ricans are jumping off the Trump train. Now, I got to be honest, Jason, I don't know who this guy Tony is. He spoke first. My friend from Staten Island, Scott Lebedo, he spoke second, the Relentless Patriot. I spoke third. So I was right behind Tony when he spoke. Never knew him, never met him, and we'll never see him again, I'm sure. And what he said, a lot of folks didn't like. Look, if you want to take somebody to task, I guess you could take somebody from the Trump campaign to task for allowing him to speak. But the truth is, that's what he does. He's a roast guy. He's like Jeffrey Ross. Of all people, even Jon Stewart, who hates Donald Trump and hates Republicans, came to this guy's defense and said, look, that's what he does. So wrong place, 100%. Wrong time, 100%. We're trying to gain voters. We want to keep all Latino voters. We love the Puerto Ricans. So it didn't work out all that well that day, but you got what you paid for. I don't hate the guy. Wrong place, wrong time.
Sid, on a final note, how much sports do you get to talk these days? Do you slip much of that in, or is it all politics?
No, I do about 20% sports, a lot of sports. In fact, I'll tell you something, Jason. Here in New York, we've got WFAN. You know that station. And when I was at the Fan 20 years ago, That's when I believe WFN was at its best. You had me and Joe Beningo doing middays. You had Mike and the Mad Dog. You just played that ESPN clip with my friend Christopher Mad Dog Russo. They were doing afternoons. So all those guys are gone. You know that now. Even Craig Carton is gone. So on my show here on WABC, which is mostly politics, but not exclusively, they all come on my show. Chris Russo, Joe Beningo, Mike Francesa, Steve Summers, Craig Carton. I bring on Phil Simms to talk football. I bring on Mike Piazza to talk baseball. I bring on people to talk college football. Mike Breen comes on to talk baskets. So I still do a ton of sports. I go to a ton of games. My son loves the Knicks. He's 15. So no, sports is still a pretty big part of my show, but it does line up behind local and national politics and news.
Man, that was a long list of people you brought onto your show. And there was one name missing that I didn't hear. I mean, what am I, chopped liver? I can't get an invite on your show? I mean, what I mean, what's going on?
You want to be honest? I have not been able to, listen, you and I started out together. You have become a huge star. And I have to say this, you deserve it. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. You put your balls, here I go again, you put your balls on the line every day, okay? Yeah, it's not just Chiefs. It's not just Kansas State basketball. You're doing some really important stuff for the American people. So getting in touch with you, I actually have an easier time reaching Trump than I do reaching you. I would love to have you on. I want you to come on Friday. But reaching Jason Whitlock these days, good luck. You're a big star, and deservedly so.
No, I just have bad phone etiquette, and so I'm anytime, Sid, and last thing I gotta ask you, just because you mentioned when you said WABC, the station you're on, it reminded me of the Howard Stern movie, because didn't he do the whole pronunciation thing, WABC, or I can't, but it reminded me of Howard Stern. And you being a New Yorker, was it WNBC or what? I don't.
There you go. WNBC.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right. And just you being a New Yorker, man, the fall of Howard Stern is one of the saddest things in the history of radio and in the history of media to me. I own the book Private Parts. I like the movie Private Parts. Howard Stern was a part of why I'm here and why I do things the way that I do. And what happened for you as a New Yorker when you look at Howard Stern and the way he is sold out? It's got to make your heart sad.
No, it does. I mean, don't forget, Jason, I spent 18 years on and off working for Don Imus, who, of course, was Howard Stern's nemesis. I have been a guest on Howard Stern's show 4 times. I had the fortunate opportunity to host Whack Pack Bowling on Howard TV with Beetlejuice and the whole crew. I worked for Howard Stern's enemy, but I always loved Howard. And I'll say this, even today, even though he's completely sold out, I don't respect him. I don't listen to him. In fact, I don't like him. In terms of talent, I'm sorry, whether you're talking about Don Imus, Rush Limbaugh, me, no one is on Howard Stern's level. But look, he got very, very wealthy. He started hanging out in the Hamptons. All of a sudden, his buddies were George Stephanopoulos and all these really horrible liberals, and he just became crazy. You know, COVID also, he never left his house, and I think he's doing himself a disservice. Don't forget, he has said more than once on his show, the best guest I ever had was Donald Trump, and all he's done the last couple of years is stab the president in the back. He's over the top nasty, and he's even worse to supporters like me and you. He goes, well, I don't like Trump, but I really hate his supporters. They're stupid. So I'm disgusted. I can't believe there was a time when I actually idolized Howard Stern, but there was that time. But that time is gone. Howard Stern went from the all-time greatest to a complete embarrassment.
Sid, thank you so much for taking the time. And my next 3 appearances on your show are guaranteed anytime, anywhere. Would love to come on. Thank you so much for supporting President Trump and attending that Nazi rally. Love you. Tell your wife hello. And we'll see you next time.
Jason, I love you too. Look forward to having you on my show on Friday. And thank you for being one of the great Americans in this country today. You are an absolute national treasure. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. That's Sid Rosenberg, long history in sports media. Sure you guys know, and any of you familiar with the East Coast, either Miami or New York, know Sid Rosenberg. Great friend of mine, known him for a long time. Wow. Things have gone a little bit off course for what I wanted to do with the rest of the show. And so, Shemeka Michelle, I hope you're ready because we're coming to you next.
Being up 29-0 and losing a football game. I really don't. This is a little tough for me, and I'm trying my best. And I thank you all for your patience, and I thank you for your heart, because this is really tough for me.
Can you talk about Hank Zelinkas? He was a true freshman that got to start today at center. Hank Zelinkas.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Hank.
Yeah, he got to start as a true freshman today at center. Can you talk about him?
CBS Sports Colorado.
CBS,
Tyler.
I'm not doing nothing with CBS. Next question.
Everybody, Buff Nation who supported us in all the hood that had my back. I thank y'all. God, this is good.
Kids got robbed during the game last week. I think that's a travesty, and I trust the recruiting team. I trust our coaches. And please have some faith in me. We good. We all right.
That's kind of threatening. Oh, they don't like that. But guess what? We're going to consistently do what we do, because I'm here and ain't going nowhere. And I'm about to get comfortable in a minute.
But we are not an ATM. You're not coming here to get rich unless you really come here with a plan to go to the NFL and get your degree. You know, we can sit up and talk about great coaching and great this and great that all we want. But it's gonna be a credit card swipe some kind of way with all these guys going to these playoffs, right? Right.
You better get me right now. This is the worst we're gonna be. You better get me right now. What's up, Balls? You believe now?
Of all the
hold on. Oh no. Do you believe that?
All right, welcome back. Let's roll out to Shemeka Michelle, who's been monitoring the chat all day. Shemeka, how did I do? What was popping in the chat? Oh, she got your MAGA hat on. That's awesome. How did I do? How did the chat receive today's show?
They loved it. They absolutely loved it. It was on fire, Jason, as a lot of people can see exactly what's happening with Kamala Harris. They're trying to shove her down our throats, and everybody's regurgitating it. Like, nobody wants that. And everybody kind of noticed that the people kind of backing her, the Black men, are the zesty ones, as you said. There was somebody in the chat that had a problem, though, with you calling people zesty. Larry Houston said, Jason's quick to call, and I'm going to have to add the correct grammar, so bear with me. Jason's quick to call somebody zesty, but we never heard of him being with a woman. All he do is tear down women. Whitlock, the homie you go out with, and he don't get no female. He just lusts but won't touch. And I thought that was funny because they're constantly telling you how much you like white women. They're constantly throwing pictures up of you back in the day with women, but now he's saying we've never heard of you being with one. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I don't leave them much. And so people get desperate when you don't, because when you're as transparent as I am, I just don't leave the critics much to work with. And so they got to make up something, and a lot of it's illogical. But Larry, I'm not here to prove anything to you or anybody else. I am here to just try to explain to you all what is going on. And if you look at from Diddy to the entire music industry, the entire entertainment industry, and if you look at the political landscape, it's all a perverted sex cult that answers to the alphabet mafia. And so I'm trying to connect the dots for you all that there's this whole elite power structure that controls the zeitgeist, for lack of a better description, and that's what's being unmasked. And so I'm glad people enjoyed this show and are getting it. Shemeka, I want to ask you something as it relates to my whole attack on, like, hey man, this whole thing is suspect and feels zesty. What do you think about my observation that, like, look at how things have reversed? Shannon Sharpe is dressed in a sexually provocative way, and Kamala Harris is dressed like she's there for business. The things have reversed. Men used to dress for business, and women would come dressed in a way trying to tempt you sexually. And what do you think of that observation in terms, this dude's there in a super tight shirt unbuttoned with some cleavage. She's all covered up and dressed in a very professional business set. That dynamic was fascinating to me. It's like, look at how roles have reversed.
Yeah, they have reversed. Now women will stand up and pull their shirt down, but men will stand up and pull their pants down. Like, they want to make sure they're showing everything that they have. And there were a lot of comments under Shannon's video, under the video with Kamala, but my favorite one was someone saying his suit was taking his blood pressure. That's how tight his suit was.
All the way down to the ankles.
All the way to the ankles. And I'm just trying to figure out why a man so big wants to wear clothes that are so small. Like, you can put on normal clothes, Shannon, and we can still see that you work out. We can still see that you're buff. You don't have to actually come out there in skiing. That's what he's going for, Kim Kardashian skiing line, to where it just looks like skin, and it's not attractive, it's not appealing, maybe to gay men. I don't know any woman that is walking around looking for the man in the tightest ankle pants. It's real gay, Shay Shay, very unappealing.
Next.
Michael DeJesus says, initially, I thought Trump was being petty back in 2020 when he said that the voting was rigged. Now, as time goes by, I believe that the voting was perhaps somehow rigged. And I do think, Jason, not only are people waking up to all of the other things as far as Trump not being what people say he is, but they're looking back at 2020, and people were ridiculed for saying that the election was rigged then, but now more people are saying, you know what, maybe he had a point.
Look, I keep hearing things, learning things to, like, blow my mind. Did you know that in Oregon and maybe another state that I can't remember, you can't vote in person? I mean, you can't vote in person. You can't hand your ballot to another. Everything's mail-in voting, or you drop it in some ballot box. But, like, in-person voting, you can't do in Oregon. I'm like, how did we get there? How is this appropriate? How have we built a system that makes it easier to manipulate things rather than a system that makes it harder to manipulate things? That's mind-blowing to me, but that's where we're at. And so, yeah, I think the scales are coming off a lot of people's eyes. Next.
Yeah, and that's crazy, Jason, considering they're burning ballots in the
ballot box.
Mail. Yeah. Mel TV Live sent a super chat. Thank you, Mel. And he says, do you think we will hear Trump 2024 in the snap count in games this weekend? He's really wanting more of the football players to come out like Bosa did. And he just wants to know if you think we'll hear more of that this weekend.
I don't know if we'll hear it in the snap count, but I do think we're going to see more public displays this weekend of support for Trump. This is the last weekend before we actually vote. And so, I expect to hear a lot. And you know what? We may see some Kamala supporters come out. You know, one of these guys that paints their fingernails will probably paint their fingernails, Kamala. And so we'll probably see support for both this weekend, maybe in the NFL and in college.
Paul S. says, good morning, Shemeka, Butter, General Jason, Lieutenant General Steve Kim, and the rest of the armed forces here in the Fearless Army. He is celebrating 30 years of marriage to his wife, Tammy. Here's to 30 years of FA. I don't know, but happy anniversary, Paul. That's amazing.
Happy anniversary, Paul. I don't know what FA or SA is, so I will not comment, but I will say happy anniversary. Thank you for the super chat. X.
That's actually all I have, Jason. People were just in the comments kind of mimicking what you said as far as these men being weak and gay. Did you actually see your favorite, Megyn Kelly, saying that she thought the Nazi rally was too mannish? She called it boy-tastic or something like that. Bro-tastic. That's the word she used.
Bro-tastic. I did see it, and I found it interesting. And there's a lot of broadcasters or women in the workforce that they got 20% feminist in them, and they find it difficult to control all the time. But I didn't see the full comments. I did see the Twitter deal about it, and so I don't want to comment too much because I haven't seen the whole thing. But and look, there's been a lot of traction to be gained and following in supporting Trump. And so people have gone full bore. Everything is Trump, 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 and they're gaining an audience. And then there are some people that want to kind of mimic, on the conservative side, want to mimic the Bill Maher model of, I want both sides to feel welcome over here on my show. And so she may have thrown a bone to the left. And look, not everything Trump does is perfect. I didn't like his speech at the RNC and talked about it on the show. But I don't doubt her support for Donald Trump. She is a businesswoman and a smart businesswoman. She may be trying to both sides and make sure that the other side feels welcome. I'm not as into making the other side feel as welcome. I want the other side to repent. And I want the other side to flip sides. And, I don't love them to death, want them to repent. But, if I'm going to say what I think and let them know how evil and satanic I think the policies they're supporting are, and if your whole life is built around making sure women can kill babies in the womb, you're not going to like this show. Period. End of story. If your whole worldview is built around racial idolatry, you're not going to like this show. So, Shemeka, thank you. Great job as always. You look awesome in that hat. We'll play tomorrow, and we will see you tomorrow.
Nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all this moves thirst for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I just want, I wanna be. I just want, I wanna be. I just want, I wanna be. I just